Well, hello everyone, welcome back to History Hack. Today we're in 19th century America and we're going to be considering the Pacific Railroad Act and the transcontinental railroad that it led to. The Pacific Railroad Act was passed on July 1st, 1862, and it offered government incentives to assist men of talent, men of character, and men willing to invest in constructing a transcontinental rail line that would connect the North American continent. Passed by Congress during the American Civil War, when Southerners were unable to block it as they previously had done, the Act stated that the government would grant each railroad company $16,000 in government bonds for every mile of track laid. Two companies immediately started laying track from each side of the continent, aiming to meet up in the middle. The Union Pacific Railroad built westwards from Omaha, Nebraska, relying heavily on Irish labourers, whilst the Central Pacific Railroad Company laid track from west to east, starting in Sacramento, California, with a large contingent of their workforce being made up of Chinese immigrants. As you can imagine, both companies raced against each other to lay the most track in the hope that they'd be able to make the most profit or make the most money. By the time the ceremonial Golden Spike had been driven home, joining the two main lines and completing the Transcontinental Railroad in May 1869, nearly 2,000 miles of track had been laid. So, we're going to follow the least conventional route that people would have taken along the railroad at the time, and we're going to hop onto this train carriage here. There we go. But the companies involved found the task very difficult. Workers faced a number of risks, especially those involved in laying track in the mountains. Labourers worked in severe weather conditions, but were also at risk of attack by Native Americans, frustrated with the railroad's encroachment on land previously promised to many of them through various treaties. All in all, it's thought around 12,000 men died in the process of building the railroad. Furthermore, both companies nearly went bankrupt and sometimes resorted to lying about how much track they'd laid in order to secure more government money to continue with the process of building the railroad. But what impact did the railroad even have? Well, it connected east to west in a way that made the transport of settlers, goods and resources easier and faster. I mean, if there's anything that highlights this well, it's that travel time across the continent dropped from several months to 1 week. Alongside this, cow towns were established along the railroad to facilitate the easier movement of beef, especially from south to north, as cattle trails that often finished alongside the railway were increasingly established and used. I'm going to drop down here just to make sure we don't get our head chopped off. And it's worth highlighting, really. A number of people died creating the tunnels that the train is travelling through like this just because you had to use explosives in order to build them. Given the railroad companies constructing the line were also given 10 square miles for each mile of track laid, they launched a persuasive sales campaign to make further profits through the sale of the land given to them. Buyers or travellers could use the railway line for a quick and cheap journey westward, while schools and churches were built, alongside the promise that you wouldn't need to pay tax until 5 years after your arrival. And they could also stay in hotels until their home was built. Right, so just purely for educational purposes, we need to drive the train, so we're going to have to get this guy out of his seat. Sorry, mate. I'm pretty sure that you can basically drive the train here for pretty much as long as you want, because it's really hard for them to shoot you because of the angle that the seat is at, but I don't know how long this lasts for, because they usually call in some marshals to run alongside the train to get you out. Anyway, the foot went down significantly on the accelerator for westward expansion as thousands of people travelled westwards in the hope of a new life. The Transcontinental Railroad ultimately became the preferred method of travel across the country, eclipsing the Oregon Trail that had predated it. As you can see here, the railroad led to many places being much better connected than they ever had been, and made the transfer of goods, ideas and people much easier, ensuring consistent connections between communities even as they moved further west. But that's all that we have time for today, so please don't forget, if you like what you've seen here and you'd like to see more, to do all the usual stuff, to like, comment and subscribe. I mean, if you haven't liked this video already or subscribed, sort your life out. Let's do it now. Let's get this over with.